Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the TV Confidential podcast, or better yet, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or wherever you listen to our podcast.
Hello, this is Robert Wagner, and you are listening to TV Confidential.
This is Mrs. H. She's gorgeous. She's one lady who knows how to take care of herself. By the way, my name is Max. I take care of both of them, which ain't easy. Because when they met, it was murder.
Ed Robertson, welcoming you back to TV Confidential Radio Talk Show about television. We'll play part 2 of a conversation that began last week with Stefanie Powers. Stefanie Powers, the actress known around the world as Jennifer Hart on Heart to Heart. Stefanie Powers, also the founder and president of the William Holden Wildlife Foundation, a nonprofit organization that Stefanie established in 1982 that continues and furthers the conservation work of William Holden in East Africa. The United Nations honored Stefanie Powers earlier this year as an agent of change in recognition for her work with the William Holden Wildlife Foundation. She is also featured in Vision for the Future. Vision for the Future, capturing inspiring stories from leaders and changemakers, a new anthology eBook that profiles 25 visionaries who not only are making a significant impact in their respective fields, but are dedicated to making the world a better place through hope, action, and lasting change. Vision for the Future is available as an ebook for free at visionforthefuture.ai. For more on the William Holden Wildlife Foundation, go to whwf.org. Calendar year 2024 and the 2024-2025 television season marks the 45th anniversary of the premiere of Heart to Heart on television. Stefanie will share a few memories of Heart to Heart later on in our conversation. In the meantime, Stefanie Powers is also on the local and national boards of SAG-AFTRA. Plus, she is the chair of the Seasoned Performers Committee for both the Los Angeles local and the National Board Committee of the Seniors. As such, she has dealt with recent lawsuits over ageism and recent insurance issues for SAG members. I hate the term seasoned performers aside, because I season meat, I season food, I don't season actors or performers, but that is...
But we really are seasoned. Those of us who've had long careers have seasoned and honed our skills and know how to cope with whatever we're going to be dealt with. We've had the highs and lows enough to know what it is to have a long career. And the issue of aging and the issue of ageism should be looked at from all ages, because here we are in a world where we hope to wake up the following day. If we're lucky enough to wake up the following day, we will be a day older. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't cross any age line, any racial issue, any sexual issue. It is for everybody. So in representing seasoned performers, or because I think that's a much more elegant way of calling people who are of a certain age that they might be considered senior citizens, it doesn't mean that's such a terrible connotation, because we've made it a terrible connotation. We are still productive. I still ride horses. I still play a little polo. I still fly airplanes. I still do a lot of things at my age. And it doesn't mean that it's a kiss of death and you better run away into the corner and dry up and blow away. Everybody, every day, ages. And if we don't consider how our futures are going to be, that aging process is going to wind up not as successful as it might have been for previous generations who looked at it as not just an inevitability, a hope. If you're lucky enough to survive long enough to be retired, then you're a lucky person, because your health and your opportunities have carried you to that point. So well, let's look at it from a much more positive and constructive way and have it as an issue that should be considered in every decision we make, not just the decisions of the union, but act for all the union members and act for all people who look forward to having a future.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with regard to the environment. I mean, it's easy to say if you're say under 40, that the issues of ageism doesn't affect me now because I'm still active and I'm not as seasoned in that respect. But if you look at it that way and you don't pay attention to the issue now, by the time you are of a certain age, it may be too late.
Precisely. I mean, those are the facts of life. And we've heard, everybody must have heard, unless you're deaf, dumb, and blind, that Social Security has been stolen from by every administration since it was created.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the resources are in the Social Security funds, they may not be there for the next generation, and they may not be there for all of those people under 40 who think they're immune and that they will be immune to any of the things that I'm discussing. Do they want to have a life? Do they want to still enjoy themselves? Do they want to own a house? All of that is planning for a future which you cannot rely on being there. You have to work at making sure it's going to be there and acknowledge the fact that every day we get older.
Stefanie Powers is on the line with us. Stefanie Powers, the actress known around the world as Jennifer Hart on Heart to Heart, and the founder and president of the William Holden Wildlife Foundation, WHWF.org, the nonprofit organization that Stefanie established in 1982 that continues and furthers the conservation work of William Holden in East Africa. The United Nations honored Stefanie Powers earlier this year as an agent of change in recognition for her work with the William Holden Wildlife Foundation. She is one of the 25 leaders and changemakers who are profiled in the new eBook, Vision for the Future, which you can download for free at visionforthefuture.ai. You can follow Stefanie Powers on Facebook and on Instagram. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries. Now, this is the part of the conversation, Stefanie, where I ask you about someone that you worked with a while ago, and I hope to God you remember something. Okay.
Who's that?
All right. Just before a couple of years before you did Heart to Heart, you did a show with Harold Gould called Feather and Father.
Oh, yes. How nice of you to remember that. I loved Harold. He was such a wonderful man, a great gentleman, and such a talented actor. He had a wonderful career in New York in theater, and then he graced many screens and played many wonderful character roles. And I had the great blessing of working opposite him in this funny TV show called The Feather and Father Gang.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a story of a woman who was a young woman who was a lawyer who was fighting for her clients and also having to deal with social discrimination, being a female lawyer. And so her father decided that he was going to help her create his investigative team for all of her cases. Well, it just happens that her father was an ex-con man. And so he elicits the help of all of his pals, who are all ex-con men, who've served time and who've sort of slightly rehabilitated, but under this new guise and under this new category where they're helping her out, they wind up forming a gang where they can practice their skills, but in a totally legitimate way.
Yes, it was like The Sting, except you and Harold were like Paul Newman and Robert Redford.
Oh, we were the leads.
Yes. You
know, Hal was in the movie, in The Sting.
That's right. He was. He was one of the people that Newman and Robert Redford used to help bring Robert Shaw down, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
I had a chance to watch a few of the Feather and Fathers not too long ago, and it was a fun show. You and Harold Gould, you worked very well off each other. It looked like you both had fun, and it looked like you especially had fun because sometimes you were the straight person in the con, but just as often, you were participating. So it was.
Well, I was pretty much his straight man. I was more than anything else. He got all the fun things to do, but it was perfect for him, and I was happy to be his straight man.
Now, last time you were on, we talked about how the early 70s were kind of a blur for you because you were working constantly for one reason or another. And so it's hard for you to remember certain guest roles that you did, but you did work with, you worked with David Jansen once in San Diego. You did an episode of Harry O with him. And you did a Rockford File with Jim Garner, including writing in the Firebird with him. Do you have any memories of working with James Garner and David Jansen?
Oh yes, because they were friends, and I worked again with David in a movie called Warning Shot.
That's right. That's right.
And we were friends. I knew his wife, and Jim Garner, his wife Lois, wanted to come to Africa, so we were planning her safari in Africa, and they lived next door to Steve McQueen and Neil McQueen, and Neil is still one of my dearest friends. So it was I was really, really fortunate to have conducted or to have had a career and worked with so many wonderful people who no longer exist, which is sad for me, but boy, was I lucky to work with them.
And for us, fans of Stefanie Powers and fans of James Garner and all the other great people that you worked with, many of these things are available one way or another for us to enjoy today. So that way we keep them alive. This is sort of related to sort of your cosmopolitan upbringing, but I understand that at one point, while you were doing Heart to Heart with RJ, you met Pope John Paul II.
Oh, well, it wasn't, and it wasn't while we were shooting. It was when we decided to meet. We had all been on hiatus. Hiatus means the show had completed its 26 episodes in 1 year.
Yeah, it's like your summer vacation.
And we would have some time off so that the writers could recharge themselves and start to write all the outlines for the new season. And then we would all go off and do other things. In this particular case, I was going off to do a movie for television that I had co-written and was co-producing and acting in. And we were going to film our last day on location in Chicago. And then I was going to join Robert Wagner and Lionel Stander and their children in Rome because they were touring. They were spending this period of time in Europe. And both Robert Wagner and Lionel Stander had lived in Rome. So they always loved to bring their family to Rome. And we were going to meet there because Heart to Heart was going to begin shooting the new season in Greece. So we had 2 episodes that we were going to shoot in Greece. So we decided we'll meet there. And as long as we were going to meet there, RJ, whom we call Robert Wagner, whom we call RJ, Robert Jr., RJ suggested that maybe we try to have an audience with the Pope. The Pope was the Polish Pope, our Polish Pope, and I am of Polish heritage. The name on my birth certificate is Stefania Fedorkiewicz. So, and Polish was my first language. So I stay in touch a bit with the Polish community and all of this. And so RJ said, well, he knew the U.S. ambassador to the Vatican. And then I said, okay, you work through him, and I will work through the Polish mafia. I called my Polish mafia friends, and they got me to some lovely Polish patriots who organized for me to be able to meet Father Sokołowski, who ran the Polish home in Rome. And this was a hostel for traveling Poles who were, this was in a period of time when they weren't really free to travel outside of Poland, and resources were very slim. So they could go and stay at this hostel and have their pilgrimage, and that was what the hostel was for. Father Sokołowski had been in a seminary with the Pope when he was a seminarian. So they were very good friends. And the Pope had been an actor. You know about that. Our Polish Pope had been an actor. And he took a great interest in actors of Polish heritage. So he had watched Heart to Heart, which in Italian was very successful, and in Italian it was called Cuori Batti Cuori. And so I was finishing filming in Chicago, went to New York, joined up with Tom Mankiewicz, who was our director, and we flew to Rome together. But there were some delays in the flight. So when we landed, we were already late for the audience that had been organized in the Vatican Square, because in the summertime, which this was, the Pope lives at Castello Gandolfo, which is his summer residence, and comes in to Rome once a week to do a public audience, and then there's a private section where he gets out of the Pope mobile and walks and takes pictures and sees people and meets people. Well, we missed that. So we joined everybody at the Excelsior Hotel, where we were all staying, and they already had their photographs and all kinds of, oh my goodness. So I immediately called Father Sokołowski. I told him what had happened, that the plane had been delayed, etc. And unfortunately, we were only staying for 2 days in Rome before we were all leaving for Greece. So he said, leave it with me, and I will get back to you, which he did. He got back to me and he said, you have to go to confession. And I said, why? What did I do? And he said, no, you have to go to confession, because on the morning of tomorrow, you're going to have Mass from the Pope.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the summertime. Most of the churches were closed. He said a lot of the international churches were on skeleton staff, and he said, "Do you want to confess in?" Because we were speaking partially Polish and partially English and partially Italian. He said, "Do you want to confess in Polish, Italian, or in English?" And I said, "Well, this is the big time, so I better get it all out and confess in English." So there was an American Catholic church with a Father York, and we made an appointment, and I went to confess, to have him hear my confession. And we stayed in his office because it was the only air-conditioned part of the church, and it was too hot. It was very, very hot. It's the summer. And so I said, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned since my last confession, which was, maybe 20 years ago. And all of a sudden, we went into a huge discussion. I was there for 2 hours. And finally, he gave me my act of contrition and my penance. And the following morning, we showed up. Tom Mankiewicz and I showed up at a certain place in Castello Gandolfo at 7 o'clock in the morning because after Mass, we were going straight to the airport to catch the plane to Greece. So we joined a group of about 25 Polish pilgrims, and we were escorted in through a small door or gate in the wall of Castello Gandolfo by the Swiss guards. And we wound our way up to a beautiful terrace that was overlooking a garden. And at the end of this veranda, which was all beautifully painted with frescoes, there was a simple table with a white cloth and a cross, a crucifix. And the minute we were all assembled on that terrace, the pilgrims from Poland started to sing. And they started to sing in Polish. And all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, the Mass is going to be in Polish. So, I tell you, I don't know where it came from, but somehow, so Father Sokolowski pushed us up to the front of this group of people. When the Pope came out, it was an extraordinary feeling to see this amazing man of faith. And so I was right up there, and every once in a while he looked up at me, and it just so happened that at the time he looked up, I remembered the words to the Lord's Prayer, or I remembered the words to something else. Oh my gosh, out it came from the medulla oblongata, or someplace in my brain. We met. I spoke to him in my terrible broken Polish. He spoke to me in English. I don't know what he said, but I've got the photographs to prove that he must have said a lot of things because we talked for quite a while. And then we rushed away to get to the airport. So that was my extraordinary blessing to have met a man who is now a saint.
And it is an extraordinary pleasure to spend a few minutes talking to Stefanie Powers. It is the holiday season. We're embarking on the holidays as we have this conversation, which means January is not far away. Are you a resolutions person?
How do you mean?
Well, are you
but
one?
If I do New Year's resolution?
Are you a New Year's resolution person? Or are you someone who resolves to make the best of what you do every day, regardless of whether it's January or June?
I think the latter,
yes.
Okay. I think we have to make the best of every moment we have.
For more information on the William Holden Wildlife Foundation, WHWF.org. You can also follow the William Holden Wildlife Foundation on Facebook, Instagram, on YouTube. You can follow Stefanie Powers on Facebook and on Instagram. Stefanie Powers, it is always a pleasure to chat with you. I look forward to our next conversation.
Me too. It was great fun. Thank you.
And happy holidays to you.
And happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays and the best for the new year.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the TV Confidential podcast, or better yet, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or wherever you listen to our podcast.
Life can be full of risks. One thing you shouldn't take a risk with ever is your family's health insurance. If you're self-employed or you now need affordable health insurance, you need to make this free call right now and see how the Health Insurance Helpline can help you get it.
800-365-4216. 800-365-4216. 800-365-4216. That's 800-365-4216.